Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Alluring Bead Boutique. My name's Katrina, and today we're going to continue on with our perfecting of mastering stitches, and we're going to start today with learning to do square stitch. For this tutorial, you are going to need some beading thread threaded onto a beading needle. I'm using a size 11 pony beading needle, and I've got some .008 wildfire threaded onto my needle already. .008, I'm sorry, wildfire in the black. You're definitely going to need a stop bead for this project, and you should pick a bead that is not the same as the beads you're going to use in your project. That way you won't accidentally stitch your stop bead into the project. Start by going through that bead, carry it down to the end of your thread, then pass back through that bead one more time from bottom to top. If you'll note here, my tail thread is at the bottom, so I'm going to go from the bottom to the top. I'm going to create that little thread bridge right on the outside edge of that bead. Because this is just a stitch tutorial, don't need a long tail. I'm just going to leave myself a couple of inches here. I'm using two different colors of size 8 delicate beads so that you can see clearly, and that's another reason I chose the black beading thread. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use these two different color beads so that you can see more clearly what I'm actually doing. For square stitch, you will start by picking up all the beads for the length of the project that you're working on calls for. Now this stitch can be used to create a long horizontal piece such as necklace, or it can be used as width to create the side of a bracelet, and you would work this way. But I'll show you more about that in a minute. But what I'm going to do for this tutorial, I'm going to pick up 6 beads, and I'm going to alternate between my colors. I'm going to pick up purple, pink, purple, pink, purple, pink. I'm going to let all those beads come falling down here to my stop bead, just like that. Now for square stitch, you're going to be working through the beads in a little bit of a different manner than you would for some of your stitches. And the way I like to start it, I like to hold that stop bead so that it's further away from me. I'm sitting back here. My stop bead is up here going away from myself. So now to start my stitch, my last bead picked up was this pink delica. So I'm going to do side-by-side colors of the same colors. I'm going to pick up a pink bead, and we'll come back through this bead from the opposite side. My working thread is exiting, coming towards myself. So I'm going to start here with my needle farthest away and come back towards myself. I'm going to work towards myself. If you'll note here how I'm holding my thumb up against the bead on my initial row, that helps my beads from slipping further down the thread, which they will do, and I will show you an example here. When you're working square stitch, you can see how your beads will slip away from the rest of your beads, and all you have to do is just hold and pull, and that'll cinch them back down towards the stop bead. Alright, so here I am, and I'm left-handed, so you'll see that my new bead added is coming off here to the left. Here's my original 6 beads. I'm coming back out of the bottom of this pink bead here. I'm going to take my needle without picking up anything. I'm going to go up through the new bead I just added from bottom to top. And that's what you call positioning. And that's how you position in square stitch. So now it's time to add my next bead. My next bead is purple, so I'm going to pick up this purple. I'm coming out of the top of this pink bead I just added. With my new bead on the needle, I'm going to come through from top to bottom through that purple bead over here on the right. Just the purple bead. When I pull, you'll see how that positions the purple bead right next to the one in row 1. So now I need to come up and get into position. I'm coming out of the purple bead here at the bottom. I'm going to go through the new bead I just added from bottom to top. Then I'm going to pull. And now I'm in position to add my next bead. My next bead is pink. So I'm going to pick up a pink. I'm coming out of the top of this purple bead here. I'm going to come down through this pink bead that I want my new bead to sit beside of from top to bottom. Pull it through. Come back up through just that new bead I just added from bottom to top. And pull. And when you pull, you want to make sure that your thread is coming up between these, underneath these two beads. Don't let your thread get hung on the bottom of your beadwork. I'll show you what that looks like. If it gets hung on the bottom of your beadwork, you're going to have an exposed thread. Here's what it will look like if you let it happen. So now you see how I have this black thread. Excuse me, my light's kind of crazy today, but see how I have that black thread showing across this purple bead? That lets me know that I've hung up somewhere. So I'm just going to take my needle and I'm going to come off of all this hang up. When I pull it, I want it to cinch up underneath those two beads that I'm currently working with. Right there. Right, so for the next bead, we need to pick up a purple. I'm coming out of the top of this pink bead in row 2 that I'm working on. I need to come down through the next bead up on row 1, the purple bead from top to bottom. Pull. We're going to finish our step and get into position by coming up through the purple bead we just added from bottom to top. Now I have 2 more beads that I have on row 1. The next one's pink. I'm going to pick up a pink bead. I'm going to come down through pink bead on row 1 from top to bottom. Pass up through the pink bead I'm adding from bottom to top. Excuse me. Now my last bead is going to be purple. And this is bead 1 of row 1. So I'm picking up my purple. I pass right down through from top to bottom my corresponding bead on row 1. Pull that bead till it sits right beside the bead we're exiting from the bottom. Now we're going to come up through our last bead that we're adding from bottom to top and pull. So now this is what the work looks like. And if you'll notice, my beads look a little weird. And that's because they're size 8/0 beads and they have really big holes in the delicas. You see how big that hole is there? And so there's a lot of room for a lot of thread. But for purposes of just learning our stitch, I'm just going to continue on. Now the most important part of your square stitch is that each time you add that new row of beads, you're going to need to reinforce your work. And this is what makes square stitch one of the most sturdy stitches in bead weaving. To reinforce, we're going to take our needle. We're going to come down through all the beads of row 1. Here's my working thread right here, exiting the top of the last bead we added in row 2. So I'm taking my needle, I'm coming down through all these beads of row 1, and I'm going to make sure that I don't skip any. I can flip my work over this way just to make sure I can't see any needle, and all I see is beads. So I'm coming down through all of those beads of my very first row I picked up. Now pull all the way through. Now I got to get back into position, so I need to come back up through all of the beads I added one by one in row 2. So coming out of the bead of row 1 here, I'm going to go up through all the beads on row 2. Then I'm going to pull. Now I'm going to cinch my little stop bead back into place. I'll show you another row, just so we can learn. Like I said, this is my goal for the new year, is to provide us with the means of mastering these stitches. So let's work on. Now, if you'll notice, I was holding my stop bead away from myself to add that row. Now you have 2 choices here. To keep working in the same direction that you were on the previous row, you can flip your work over just like this. And I'm going to show you we'll go ahead and flip it so we're working in the same direction, which is towards ourselves. So now my working thread is coming out of the bottom of that purple bead. So I'm going to pick up my purple bead. I'm going to come through that same bead from top to bottom. Pull my bead so it sits right beside the previous row. Coming out of the bottom here, go up from bottom to top through the bead I just added. Oops, sorry for the earthquake. And you want to make sure you're not getting your tail thread caught into your thread bridges there. Now let's add a pink one. We're ready for our pink. Pick up a pink. We're going to come down from top to bottom through this bead on row 2. The next bead. We need to step into position. We're going to pass up through the pink bead we just added from bottom to top. And then we're ready for our next purple bead. Pick up your bead, come down through the purple bead on row 2, from top to bottom, pass up through the bead you're adding from bottom to top. Make sure you're not getting your working thread hung down here on the beadwork, and that your thread is sucking into the intersection between the two beads you're working with. Coming out of the purple bead here at the top, I've got my pink bead on my needle. I'm going to come down through the pink bead from row 2. Pull my bead into position. Come up through the bead I just added from bottom to top and pull. One more time with the purple. Pick up a purple. Come down from top to bottom to the matching bead on row 2. Pass back up through the bead you just added from bottom to top. Now the last bead for this row 3 is pink. I've picked up a pink bead. I'm coming down through that bead on row 2, top to bottom. Pull my bead into place. Step into position by passing up through the pink bead I just added and pull. Now to reinforce, we're going to take our needle and we're going to pass down through all the beads of the previous row, which in this instance is row 2. I'm going to flip my work over and make sure that I can't see any needle on either side. Pull my thread all the way through, all 6 beads. Then we'll come back up through the row I just added, which is row 3, making sure that I get through all of my beads and I don't skip any. Now I'm going to show you on this next row that if you don't feel like flipping your work every time, it is possible to add your beads without flipping your work. So we were coming out of this pink bead here at the top. I'm going to pick up a pink bead, and in this instance I would pass through my pink bead that I'm exiting from bottom to top, pull my thread through, get my bead situated right next door, and then I will be coming out of the top of this bead on row 3. So I would pass from top to bottom through my new bead I just added, just like that. So now it's a purple bead. Pick up a purple. I want to situate it right beside of this purple bead on row 3. So I would go from bottom to top, just through that purple bead, pull. Once my bead is situated into position, would come from top to bottom through just the purple bead right there. And as I pull, once again I'm going to make sure that my thread falls down right there between the pink row and the purple row. I'll show you a few more. Pick up your next bead, which is pink. Pass this way. Pull your bead all the way into position, and then come back through the bead you just added in the opposite direction, like so. But personally, I like flipping my work. It's easier for me to do this stitch working towards myself. So I'm just going to flip it back over. Now I'm going to continue on as I was previously. I'm going to pick up my next bead, which is purple. Now I'm going to be coming, because I flip my work, you'll see that I'm working back towards myself. So I come from top to bottom through the corresponding purple bead of row 3. Then I come up through the bead on row 4 that I just added. Pull my thread into position. Repeat for the next bead, which is pink. And if you'll notice, if you've watched the ladder stitch video, you'll notice that we're actually performing the same basic stitch as ladder stitch. The only difference is that we added all of our beads at once, and we're able to ladder stitch these several beads instead of just limiting ourselves to 1 or 2 beads. And it's a beautiful stitch, and it's very sturdy. So I'm on to my last bead here I need to add is purple. I'm going to come down through from top to bottom with my new bead. Then I'm going to come back up through that bead I just added from the bottom to the top and pull my thread. And then once again, I'll need to reinforce my row. So I'm coming out of row 4 here at the top. I'm going to take my needle and pass down through all the beads of row 3 from top to bottom and flip the work over. Make sure I didn't skip any. And now to get into position for row 5, I'm going to have to come back through all those beads in row 4 that I just added. So come up through all of the beads, double check to make sure you're not skipping anything. And there you go. And that, folks, is just a very quick and simple tutorial on square stitch. We'll have another PDF file available on my website very soon for you subscribers out there. If you're not subscribed to the bead map, make sure you head on over to the alluringbeadboutique.com. I've thrown the links up over the eye. Hover over the little eye in the right corner, or check down below for my links. Get that out of the way, and that way you'll get a discount on patterns. There's lots of free PDFs and things coming in 2018 for subscribers only. And make sure you subscribe to my channel and follow me on social media. I don't want you to miss out on any of the great things I've got coming in 2018. But from now, I want to thank you for watching. You guys have a great day. This is Katrina from the Alluring Bead Boutique, signing off for now.